Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle, flying solo on today's show. A lot to get into. Always an interesting Tuesday press conference. We got Ryan Day, of course. We got the dance master himself, Jim Noles, and we got Will Howard yesterday. So we're going to break down what those guys said. We're going to talk about the college football playoff rankings and much more. Before we do that, I want to let you know about our friends at Factor Meals and a great deal you guys can get. 50% off. Fantastic deal. And you can help the show out. You guys must be buying Factor Meals because they keep returning as a sponsor of our show, which I love. I see their truck driving around my neighborhood making deliveries. I love that Factor is catching on big time because it's a fantastic company and just a fantastic product. Notice how the days are shorter, but your to-do lists are not. Power through your busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals from breakfast to dinner and anything in between. Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like routine or you enjoy mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your box, like smoothies. Don't let shorter days slow you down. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. All right, head to factormeals.com/bucknuts50. Use code bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, number 2 in the CFP. I think Ohio State deserves that. I was also pleasantly surprised that they were actually there. I thought they would be third. We talked about this with Patrick Murphy on our instant reaction after the press conference yesterday. I was pretty convinced Ohio State would be third and Georgia would be second. So I'm glad Ohio State obviously is second. Now, does it really matter if they were number 2 or number 3? No, it really doesn't, because if Ohio State wins out, I think even if they were behind Georgia, I guess there's a chance Ohio State could have won out and then Georgia could have won out and Georgia would have stayed ahead of Ohio State. But if Ohio State beats Oregon in the rematch and Oregon was number 1, I'd have to think 12-1 Ohio State still would have been over Georgia. But now there's no doubt. Now there's absolutely no doubt. Ohio State would be the number 1 seed if they win out. And basically, if Ohio State and Oregon do play in a rematch in the Big Ten championship game, the loser of that game is the 5 seed. And some have opined that the 5 seed is actually where you want to be. I give me the first round bye because you don't risk losing a game against a team you're probably going to beat, but it wouldn't be a bad team. It would be a team that's an actual top 12 team. So you're risking a loss. And you're risking injury by playing an extra game. So give me that bye. But I hear what people are saying with the 5 seed, because then in theory, the 4 seed's not going to be, you're going to play the 12 seed and you're going to host that game. And then you would play the 4 seed, who in theory wouldn't be that good. Let's say it's the Big 12 champ. And they have a loss. Could even be Boise State as the number 4 seed if chaos happens in the Big 12, but we shall see. So I was pleasantly surprised Ohio State was number 2. I thought they deserved it. And I just didn't think the committee would give it to them. Yeah, it's not lost on me the irony that Ward Manuel is the chairman of the committee. I didn't have a problem with anything he said last night or anything. If you didn't, it's just I'll go with it's ironic. Alanis Morissette. It's ironic, don't you think? Because he's overseeing what could be. The NCAA is about ready to give them the hammer, and he's their athletic director is the chair of the CFP. It's wild. It's almost like they're trolling us with that. So I'm sure you guys have seen this, but let's go down the top 12 real quick. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6th, Tennessee 7th, Indiana 8th. I'll get to that in a second. That's good news for Indiana. BYU 9th, Notre Dame 10th, Bama 11th, Boise 12th. Why is that good news for Indiana? Because I maintain 11-1 Indiana is making this thing. If their one loss is to Ohio State on the road. And I know they wouldn't have a quality win. I get that, but they've been blown. Now they can't get blown out by Ohio State. And frankly, I just hope Ohio State wins that game. Indiana's legit. I don't think Indiana's defense is going to hold up as far as against teams like Ohio State for 60 minutes, especially with the game being here in Columbus. Not that it's a very raucous atmosphere, what we like to call Ohio Stadium West. Might not be able to call it that anymore, but when Ohio State takes over the stadium every time they go over there. But I really think Ohio State's going to be more than fine against Indiana. And yeah, I know they play Purdue this week and Northwestern next week. Purdue's 18th in the power rankings in the Big Ten by pretty much everybody who does power rankings, yours truly included. 18th out of 18. Phil Steele picked that. He had them pegged perfectly, 18th. I guess the Big Ten media poll did as well, but the Big Ten media poll had Indiana like 17th, and Phil Steele had them like right in the middle. So, but everybody got Purdue right. But I think Ohio State's going to be more than fine against Indiana, just because I don't think Indiana's defense can hold up with this Ohio State offense for 60 minutes. Indiana's offense is legit, though, and they're well coached. Just Google them, right? But it's good news for Indiana. Here's why. So they're number 8 right now. Let's say they were 10th last night. Wouldn't have been catastrophic, but wouldn't have been nearly as good. Because now the committee is saying right now they're 8th. Do we really think if they lose let's say they lose by 14 to Ohio State, something like that, or even closer, do we really think the committee is going to say, let's say it's 10 points, whatever number you want to put on it. They can't get blown out, but they lose by 10 in Columbus, and that's their one loss, and they've been blowing everybody else out. I mean, they have to take care of business against Michigan this week, and then they get a week off before the Ohio State game, and then they get to play hapless Purdue in their finale in Bloomington. They're favored by 14.5 over Michigan, by the way. Whoever thought we'd be sitting here talking about Indiana being 8th in the CFP and favored by over 2 touchdowns over Michigan, 14.5. We'll see. They have to take care of business. But if they're sitting there at 11-1, I don't think the committee is going to drop Indiana from 8th to 12th, meaning they would have a win over Michigan. They would probably even bump up another spot. They at least hold steady at 8th. And then obviously Purdue wouldn't be a quality win, but if you win that one, you're not going to move down after, unless it's like you win by a last-second field goal against hapless Purdue. They'll probably blow out Purdue. And then I don't see the committee saying, oh, yeah, we're going to drop you from 8th to 12th because you lost in Columbus by 10. Anyway, we don't need to go too deep on Indiana. But I thought that was good news for Indiana. And if you're Tony Petitti, you're loving life right now. I mean, you don't like that there's only 4 teams of the 25 that are Big Ten. But, man, 4 of the top 8 are Big Ten, including the top 2. So that's top heavy, but that's still good business right there when you got 4 of the top 8 from the Big Ten in the CFP rankings and the top 2. All right, let's get to yesterday's press conference. No surprise, but the offensive line is set. I mean, I would have been shocked if Ryan Day was like, yeah, we're still going to tinker after that Penn State performance. No, there's no tinkering. Donovan Jackson is your left tackle, and Carson Hinsman is your left guard. And, Coach Day's not going to get into – he's going to stick with and I don't blame him at this point. Might as well stick with it. He's not going to say it was anything like disciplinary with Carson. It was just he's like, he was sick during camp, and then we had a real battle there at right guard. Tegra won that, partially maybe because Carson was out for so many practices with an illness. He was repping at right guard, and then when they decided, okay, let's make him the backup center, Tegra's the right guard, and we'll have obviously Donnie at left guard. So it just wasn't and that does make sense. Still, I think, come on, I mean, I still think there were some disciplinary reasons that Carson Hinsman was missing for 8 games, basically. Was definitely suspended for the Cotton Bowl, definitely. And then wasn't suspended this year. Like, he dressed, he traveled, he played barely, but then they unleashed him and he played great. The entire offensive line, well, Tegra didn't grade out as a champion. So 4 of the 5 guys played really well. And Tegra was right there, Day said. He was really, really close to grading out a champion. You have to grade 80 out of 100 to grade a champion, and they're very strict, Coach Day says. So Tegra was right there. So all 4 of the 5 guys graded as champion. And who graded the highest? Carson Hinsman. First start ever at left guard. First time starting a game since last year's game at Michigan at center. So that's good. So we got the offensive line set. They got their 5. Stay healthy. That's the 5. Love it. And there was this talk that, Donovan Jackson this obviously was BS, but Donovan Jackson and his family might not be cool with him moving to left tackle because it might hurt his draft stock. How's that going to hurt his draft stock? And obviously, he's not going to play left tackle in the NFL, but if you're an NFL team, you're drafting Donovan Jackson at guard, it is nice knowing that if in an emergency, he could play tackle, because in the NFL, as we all know, you're dressing at the most 8 offensive linemen on game day. Sometimes you're dressing, 7? Because you have that 53-man roster, but that gets trimmed down to 45 on game day. You get your 5 starters, sometimes 2 backups. All of a sudden, if guys go down, you need to move pieces around. If anything, this helps Donovan Jackson's draft stock. I don't know what people were thinking. Yeah, him playing some left tackle is going to hurt his draft stock. No, it won't. No, it will not. It's just like when people talk about Paris Johnson playing guard. I mean, he understood right away. Monica understood. His family, it was like they knew he was going to play tackle, but he played guard as a freshman, got in there, including against Clemson in the CFP, and played a lot. And they knew, if anything, that was going to help him. You know, the NFL teams are like, oh, he's versatile. Yeah, we're going to have him left tackle or right tackle. He played right tackle last year for the Cardinals. Now Paris is playing left tackle. By the way, the Cardinals have a winning record. No one saw that coming, 5-4. Feel good for my Buckeyes down there with Paris and Marv. But it helped his draft stock, if anything. I don't think it really would have mattered with Paris, but stuff like that does not hurt your draft stock when you can show you're versatile in the offensive line. Anyway, I digress. Drink. All right. So I loved that. Not surprising, but I loved hearing Coach Day say that. I also loved him saying, I asked him about Tyleik Williams, hoping he could give his Coach Day's. Sometimes he just doesn't want to say anything about injuries, and sometimes he'll tell you maybe more than you expect, and sometimes he gives you kind of what you maybe expect. He gave me kind of what I expected yesterday. He said Tyleik is day-to-day. That's good. Sprained ankle is what I'm hearing, and heard that before the press conference. I'll be surprised if he plays against Purdue for a couple reasons. Get this big boy healthy for the the stretch run, meaning Indiana, that team up north, Big Ten championship game, and then the playoffs. And the follow-up question to Coach Day was, can you get into the way how well Kayden McDonald is playing? So, and he said, yeah, K-Mac's doing great. Singled him out for a couple different plays, including the third down on the goal line stand, the final rushing attempt that they stuffed. Kayden McDonald just threw his guy back in and just destroyed the line of scrimmage, just blew up the play. I don't even know if he got – this is a defensive tackle's life. I don't think he got credited for the tackle or anything, but he should have got credited for like 2 tackles on that play or something. I mean, it was just – he blew that play up. That's a phrase used a lot in football. That is exactly the proper phrase right there. I mean, he just destroyed that play. I love Kayden McDonald and the fire he plays with, and I just love these big D tackles that are quick. They're so disruptive. And you get another year of him. He's only a sophomore. He's just a baby. He plays like a beast. So I'll be surprised if Tyleik plays this week. If he does, I'm sure he'll play sparingly. I want to see a lot of K-Mac out there. It's also interesting that Edrick Houston is playing some D tackle, playing some 3 tech in there. I like that. That tells me a few things. They like Edrick Houston's quickness in there, and they feel like he can be a big matchup problem for guards, even as a true freshman. Maybe they weren't thrilled with some of their other backup 3 techs. They know they love Kayden McDonald as their best backup D tackle, but he's obviously a 1 tech. And if Tyleik's going to be out, they consider Tyleik a 3 tech. I wish they would just not even worry about 1 tech and 3 tech. If Tyleik's out, Kayden McDonald should be in there. I don't care if it's Ty Hamilton's a 1 tech and Kayden's a 1 tech. Great. I don't care. Get both those guys in there. Get your best guys in there, because Kayden McDonald is clearly the best backup D tackle on this team. I mean, he's really right there with Tyleik Williams and Ty as far as disruption. Like when he hasn't played as many snaps, but he's been just as effective, if not more effective than those guys. And I say that saying both those guys have been really, really good, Tyleik and Ty Hamilton. I'm just really high on K-Mac. And it sounds like the coaching staff is too. But Edrick Houston, that's an interesting one, because I know they were saying when we asked him about it during spring, they're like, no, he's a defensive end. Okay. And I think that'll still be probably his position going forward, strong side DN. But hey, again, versatility is good. Nothing's etched in stone. Because he's playing some 3 tech right now doesn't mean he's never going to play defensive end again. And if he can play both and be effective there, great. Again, to use an NFL example, you see this all the time. Sometimes it's by necessity, because again, you have 45 guys you dress on an NFL team. So guys on the D line, if guys get banged up, they have to play D end and D tackle and move around. Obviously, that's not as a problem in college. Even on your travel roster, you take 70. Used to not be that much. Now they can travel 70. Then you can dress everybody and their brother for home games. So, but yeah, I do like that. I like to see an Edrick Houston get out there, because you're not seeing a lot of true freshmen play this year, because, you see Jeremiah Smith is, probably the best true freshman in the country. And then not much after that, although, just that one minor exception, the best true freshman season we're ever seeing from an Ohio State wide receiver. And that includes Chris Carter, which is crazy. And it was a different time, obviously, in '84, but Earl Bruce was throwing the football a lot that year with Mike Tomczak. Now they're running it a lot too with Keith Byers and throwing it to Keith Byers. Point is, that was not an antiquated offense in '84. That was actually a pretty modern offense. Nothing like today, but still, Chris Carter, I mean, to even be saying that he's going to have a better year than Chris Carter is insane. So it's been so much fun watching Jeremiah Smith, and we have him for 2 years after this one, which is crazy. Now you see why Ryan Day was like weak in the knees on the signing day press conference. I've never seen that when he got the relief that you get somebody from the back. I wonder if it was Mark Pantoni or one of his staff must have gave him, came in at the back of the team room. We're all looking at Coach Day. He looked up. Somebody gave him like the bat signal, and he was like, "Oh, you guys saw what happened." He like basically got pretended like he was going to fall. Maybe he wasn't pretending, but you see why how Jeremiah Smith was a must get. And you're thinking, okay, if Ohio State doesn't get a wide receiver, yeah, he's talented. They'll just move the next guy in there. They get 5-star receivers all the time. No, Jeremiah's on a different level. He's like a 6-star wide receiver. Caleb Downs had a chance to ask Jim Noles. Well, my first question for Jim Noles was, who's the second best dancer on the coaching staff? He laughed. He said, no comment. I'm not going to answer that. I love Noles is just such a cool cat. And he's easy to love when he's coming off of a performance like that, right? I mean, people were not loving him too much after Oregon. And really, Ohio State still should have won that game. They forced, you can't let a team score 32, but it's not like Oregon scored like 40. Ohio State should have scored on that last drive and won the game, and no one would have been saying anything about Jim Knowles. Then he completely shuts down a Penn State offense, and everybody was touting Andy Kolenicki. And I think Kolenicki does a good job. This is the most innovative Penn State offense I've seen, which gives Jim Knowles even bigger feather in his cap that he just was able to pretty much shut them down. I mean, they had 2 field goals. Obviously, they scored a touchdown on pick 6. We'll talk about Will Howard in a second, but love Knowles. So who's the second best dancer? We're not going to know that, but we know Knowles is the best. If you haven't seen what I'm talking about, the post-game locker room celebration, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's always good seeing old white guys dance to rap anyway. I always get a kick out of that. So Knowles can get down there. He's got some of that Philly in him. Ryan Day's got a little too much New Hampshire in him. Ryan Day, I don't think really is in the running to be the second best dancer. A little too much New Hampshire in him. But, Knowles has got some of that Philly in him. So I'm curious who the second best dancer is. Carlos Loughlin was getting down a little bit. I can see Carlos Loughlin doing it. You can tell that Carlos Loughlin has danced in the club a few times. All right. But I wanted to ask Knowles about Caleb Downs because we saw him activated, as they said, against Michigan State, played great. But overall, it's like, man, can we get Caleb Downs to be more of a playmaker? We know he is. After being the SEC Freshman of the Year last year, 107 tackles as a true freshman at Alabama. Unleash him. He's been unleashed, my friends. He was unbelievably good against Penn State. Unbelievably good. Number 2 was just all over the field. I love him. And not putting up the stats where he's going to be an All-American probably this year, but he should be. He should be. It's nice having Lathan Ransom back. I'm still very pleasantly surprised he only missed 1 week. So, and Knowles went on and on about Caleb Downs. And I asked him, I know he does a lot of stuff well. If you had to pick one thing that he does better than anything else, what would it be? And a lot of times coaches don't like questions like that, but Knowles is awesome. He gave me a thoughtful answer. He always gives thoughtful answers. He said he thought about it. He goes, his awareness of exactly what the offense is trying to do. I mean, that's probably the best thing you can say about a safety. And he'll also come up and pop you. He can cover. He's extremely athletic, extremely intelligent when you talk to him. And he's the quarterback back there. Love Caleb Downs. We're finally seeing the Caleb Downs that we were hoping to see. I'm going to talk about Will Howard in a moment. Before we do that, I'll let you guys know about Gooder sunglasses. Bam. I've got 2 of these, the Operation Blackout. I got one in my car, and I got a backup because when they sent me the free pair, I lost those, and it took me like 2 months to lose them, which is about a month longer than I usually get before losing sunglasses. So then I got 2 more, and I haven't lost them yet. So maybe that's the key. If I get the backup pair, I won't lose them. But and Gooder makes it easy for you to get a backup pair because they're like $25. They start at $25. If you get really fancy, you might get up to like $35 if you get really crazy with the Cheese Whiz. But Gooder, you guys can get free shipping. Highly recommend them. Patrick Murphy's wearing them for what we learned live during his shots at Ohio Stadium or Beaver Stadium. It'll be Ohio Stadium this week. We love them here at Bucknuts. Dan Rubin and his family love them. My family loves them. And we're excited to welcome Gooder back to this show as a sponsor. And why should you like Gooder sunglasses? Because they're stylish sunglasses that start at just $25. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun. You get a 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. I don't think you're going to need the 30-day free returns because you're going to be satisfied. But if not, 30-day free returns, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. If you want to support our show and try a pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. How about Will Howard? So he comes in yesterday to the press conference, and he's doing this thing. He's participating in Buckeye-thon, where they're going out and they're, raising money for cancer and meeting with cancer patients. Well, he spent like a long time at the hospital the other day with some kids that are dealing with cancer. And he came into with this Ohio Cares shirt on, OHIO, and it had signatures on it. And I was like, I wonder what those signatures are. He got the kids that have cancer to give him their autograph. Like they wanted his autograph. He's like, then he got their autograph on his shirt. That's the type of young man we're talking about. I almost called him a kid. And I know he's a fifth-year senior, but he carries himself like he's an NFL veteran. Could not be more impressed with his leadership skills and just how he carries himself. And yeah, he's good for one or two boneheaded plays a game, but give me him as my quarterback for this team. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in Ohio State history, but I think they're going to get to where they want to go with Will Howard. Him adding that running element is huge, and they're going to break it out in big games, as we've seen Penn State. They're not going to break it out this week. No need to. Next week, no. Indiana, yes. Michigan, yes. Oregon rematch, yes. Playoffs, yes. So hopefully keep him healthy, but really like him. He's his accuracy. He's got to clean up the mistakes. That could cost Ohio State in say they get to the national championship game. I get that. This is why I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in Ohio State history. Probably not in the top 5, but he's a good quarterback. And I keep hearing the Craig Krenzel references. He's a much better passer than Craig Krenzel. Go back and look at Craig Krenzel's completion percentage. It was different, Tressel offense. I get that. But interception, you talk about, mistakes. Krenzel's touchdown to interception ratio was not good. We think of him as a guy that didn't make mistakes. Let me look up Craig Krenzel's. And Craig, by the way, gritty as heck, leader, clutch. So I don't want to sit here and talk bad about Craig Krenzel. I love Craig Krenzel. I'm just saying, I think you're selling Will Howard short when you say, he's like Craig Krenzel. I've heard people even say like a poor man's Craig Krenzel. It's like, no. He's more talented than Craig. You can say Will has a noodle arm. He doesn't quite have a noodle arm. Craig kind of did. Okay. This might surprise you guys. Craig Krenzel, 28 touchdown passes in his career at Ohio State, 28 touchdown passes, 20 interceptions. It includes 2003, his senior year. He had 15 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions. Okay. Had a completion percentage of 55% completion percentage. He wasn't that accurate. He didn't have a strong arm. And he threw more interceptions than people remember. It's not a good ratio. 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. The year they won the title in 2002, he obviously was gritty as hell as a runner. They used that quarterback run against Miami. Loved it. He's tough as nails, clutch. 2002, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completion percentage of 59.4. So he had a completion percentage of 56.8 during his career. Again, you're playing in a Jim Tressel offense, in an early Jim Tressel offense. I get that. It's different than playing in a Ryan Day offense. And this isn't the Jim Tressel offense of 2005 and 2006 where he opened it up with Mr. Troy Smith. I get that. I'm just saying, I think we have to remember when we say, he's like, or people are saying he's not even as good as Craig Krenzel. It's like, I think people forget. Krenzel was more turnover prone than we want to remember. Clarett saved his ass in the national championship game. Krenzel threw a terrible interception when Ohio State was going in for what could have been a touchdown. Then Clarett steals it from Sean Taylor. They end up getting a field goal out of it. But that was almost, for a game that ends up going to overtime, that could have cost them the game right there. That was a terrible interception. So, anyway, I love Will Howard. I think they can win the national championship with him. I really do. And you just see it yourself. You don't need to hear it from Ryan Day or his teammates. You can see it yourself that Will Howard is a great leader. But, man, it does put it over the top when you hear the way his coaches talk about him and the way his teammates talk about him. And this is a guy that's been here for 10 months. Less than a year he's been at Ohio State. What, 11 months now? Yeah, because he got here in January. And I mean, and it's not like he won them over, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he won them over like pretty much right away. That's hard to do, to walk into a place like Ohio State and do that. So, love his leadership skills, his charisma, and I think he's a good quarterback. He does have to clean up the mistakes. No doubt about that. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm going to get the show posted to our other platforms. Really appreciate you guys joining me for the live show. Appreciate everybody joining me who's listening to the podcast version. Dan Rubin will be with you tomorrow talking recruiting and more. And I'll be with you guys Friday with Jay Book, and then again on Saturday with what we learned live after the Purdue game. Michigan, Indiana after that. Ohio State noon, what we learned live. And then 3:45-ish, we'll still be doing what we learned live, but probably through the first quarter of the Michigan-Indiana game. But I'm really curious to see if Indiana can not just beat Michigan, but really take it to them. 14.5 points. Who thought we'd see that? Indiana ranked 8th, Michigan unranked, and 14.5-point dogs to the Hoosiers. All right. Appreciate you guys a lot. I know you have a lot of choices, and I know you take advantage of a lot of those choices in the Buckeye podcast sphere, but I'm glad you guys make Bucknuts Morning 5 part of your routine Monday through Friday. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate it. Go Bucks.